my best mentors ever, it's that old saying, and I realized this when I was 20 to 23, like those foundational years where I got that first sales job. Everything that I built my life on happened between 20 and 24, really conceptually for my life. And it all came from that quote, is that you will be the average of your 5 closest friends. And then there was that second quote that just said, hey, you want to know where you'll be at 5 years now? It's based on the people you associate with and the books that you read. I said, oh shit.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Walk to Wealth podcast. If you're tuning in on YouTube or any of the podcast directories, make sure to do yourself one teeny tiny little favor and make sure to give us a follow, because I don't want you to miss out on any of the amazing guests I got coming on this year. Without further ado, let's get right into this one. Scott, for anyone who hasn't had the pleasure, the opportunity to get to know you, to get to meet you yet, brother, tell us your elevator pitch. Who are you and what do you do?
Sure. I appreciate it. Number one, thanks for the invite to come on and speaking with you, man. I've enjoyed your content and kind of getting to know you from afar, the opportunity to speak with your listeners. But elevator pitch, man, I'm an entrepreneur like a lot of these guys and gals that are out there. I didn't go to college. I grinded my way. I believe in work ethic over really like mental capacity, because I could just grind my way through everything. I came from a blue collar background, and now I'm talking to you from Colombia, South America. So I moved one of my companies offshore, and we got about 200 agents here dominating in sales, just disrupting an entire industry, man.
That's amazing, brother. And so for anyone that doesn't know, so I actually met Scott because one of my friends that I met out here at one of the public speaking masterminds, his name is Andre. He was on a podcast, I believe it's not too many episodes ago. So if you go about 10 episodes back, you can actually go check out Andre's episode. But me and Andre been cool. We met in person years ago. And then that's how me and Scott got connected, because Andre actually works with Scott. And so it's such a small world. It's crazy. Yes. But long story short, man, Scott, take us back in a time machine, man. Where does your story all begin? What was little Scott like growing up?
The part that's relevant, I think, is that I just came from a parents where, they got married at 17, got pregnant at 16, had my brother. My grandfather was a roofer. My father was a roofer. Exceptional lower middle class family, good humans, but just weren't able to break out of a certain level of financial security. Like I was blessed to say we didn't move around a lot, but we lived in the same house for 18 years. And so not being able to grow was a pain point for little Scott. And so I kept on seeing these influences in my dad's life where he would pick up really awesome things, but maybe not execute long-term, like a Tony Robbins type book or some of these other books. And so I was just, I think, a pretty good observer of, I was destined to be another generation of the same good people, but always where finances was a pain point in their life.
Yeah, no, that's an interesting point, because it's like a lot of people can't seem to like break that cycle. And you were, and clearly you got it going big. But I guess like for you, you said ended up not going to college, right? Or not finishing college. And so like
not going to college.
So like where did your journey take you post high school? Like where did it go?
So immediately post high school, I was just doing what any day labor type person would do. Like I knew I didn't like roofing. I was really blessed that my dad, as a young guy, he kept on taking me out to the roof just to put me through pain. So I was like, this sucks. Like he would have me picking up nails or climbing on a hot roof or being out in the cold. And he was doing that because he was determined also to make sure I didn't follow in his footsteps. But then also too, he wasn't a believer in college so much, I think just because it cost so much. And so I always kind of got this kind of little bit of a mixed signal, but I just said, okay, great. I found a job through a family friend doing like installing security systems, which just is like the guy, you go into people's houses, you kind of tell them how to work their thing. You're running wires through the roof, setting up, just basic fundamental. I was a grunt worker is what they called it. I was just a grunt worker who was going to make, a little bit above minimum wage. And that was the trajectory I was on.
And so how do you hop off of it?
Having a desire to hop off of it, but not rushing the process. And so for me, I walked one day into a resort, this real fancy sales center. I had no clue. And I was like, I'm telling these people how to use their alarm and shit, John. And I'm looking at it and I'm pressing, and I reach into the guy. I'm like literally teaching him. I'm like, dude, what do you guys do here? He's like, we sell timeshare. I'm like, what's timeshare? I'm literally 20 years old, about to turn 21, and he's telling me, and I just looked around and I saw these kids my age, and that guy's driving a Mercedes, and that guy's got a BMW, and look how nice his shoes are, and look how nice his clothes are. And I literally, it was like, he was like, dude, if you want a job, you just come back in. Like it was, I don't know, the following weekend or so. But I left out of there that day. I gave my boss the notice. I was like, yo, bro, this was my last day. I'm going to go do what those guys did. And so that's what started my journey in high ticket sales, was just having a burning desire to get out, because they say it's luck, but it's when preparation makes opportunity. Like I was prepared for that moment that I could advance my life, and when the opportunity was there, it wasn't an easy route, but it was just a route I knew would prevent me from having to use my hands for the rest of my life.
Yeah, now that's such a amazing story, and it's one of the things. So a couple of hours ago, I was interviewing someone who's younger than me. So he's 18, and so I met him at one of the events I gone to, and so he was telling me his story, and it's like between like me, you, and him, like all three different ages. But it's like we had said in this, which is like for whatever reason, like we were willing to take that jump. And as you already know, I mean, you got more experience in life than I do. Like a lot of people aren't, right? And especially at that age, you said you were in your early 20s when you made that jump, right? Decided you put in
Yeah.
the peace sign and went all in, right? It's just like, what kind of, where can you say that originates from? Because I still haven't really figured it out myself. But it's like, where do you, if you could put your finger on it, like, where does that come from?
It's funny to hear you say that, and I love this conversation because we're talking about generational and then also some level, but the amount of what we're talking about now is nothing compared to the next leap that you'll make and the next leap that you'll make. And so, what I believe you'll discover as a young entrepreneur, just like your friend, is these are actually not really leaps as much as they're steps. They're just steps forward, and you're just never going to move forward. You just can't grow if you stay in the same place. It's like when I see people who are like, need help, I always tell them, I say, like, listen, I can't grab your hand and lift you up if you have a clenched fist. So like you're just going to have to relax, follow the process, trust, etc. So I think it probably comes from pain or the desire for gain, because that's really the only two motives in people. It's like the pain is bad enough they're ready to move on, or their desire for gain is great enough and they're ready to move on.
Yeah, no, I agree with you 100%. That's like something I learned in marketing, right? There's only two desires in the world: people either move away from pain or move towards pleasure. And like
There you
that's what I
go.
learned. Like, and I learned that from me personally. I learned that from copywriting, and because I had to start writing my own like sales pages and stuff like that for my course and stuff like that. And I forget which book I think it was some copywriting book I think, and I was like, oh okay. And so as long as I could speak to that, you could speak to the masses. And so
It's
so go
true.
back to your journey a little bit, right? You said you told your employer like, hey, I'm gone, I'm gonna go do this thing. Where does your journey go from there? Like, where does it eventually start to leading into what you have going on now?
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's been a long one, but I'll just say when I made that step, it was not pretty. It was ugly. It was
Yeah.
terrible. I sucked at what I did. I literally sucked at what I did. I was terrible sales guy in the beginning. Like I had the right mindset per se, but I had marbles in my mouth. Like I would be so embarrassed to go back and listen to that professional that I was. And so that's also part of the journey too. It's like even when you make the leap, you're gonna doubt yourself to a degree when it's late at night, when the bills ain't hitting right. You'd be like, damn, I left the security of this for now the uncertainty of this. And so it was just a journey where I was very blessed to have a good mindset where people were interested in mentoring and recruiting me only because I was profitable. Like there's really anybody who recruited me and asked me to move and put paid for housing were like, oh, this kid's got some sauce. We can work with him and make him better. And so then it led me to Florida, and I worked for one guy for 11 years. Grew from a basic agent all the way to the COO, and then it ultimately was another leap for myself now to go start my own company, and then it's just been leap after leap.
Man, that's insane, man. That is so. You took that leap of faith, and then one opportunity led to the next, and eventually lead to what you have going on now. And so, for anyone
There
that
was one in
hasn't, like,
between. I want to hit the one leap in between because I think your guys would
yeah,
appreciate it. After I worked for this guy for 11 years, I saw something in the industry that I didn't think he saw. And so he wasn't willing to come with me. And so he left. But I grew that company in South Florida to about 150 people. I have 200 here behind me. And then ultimately ended up being sued by two Wall Street backed competitors, $2 billion companies. So sued for 40 some $1 million, ultimately sued, had a federal trustee come into our company, sued for another 20 some $1 million, had to effectively come down here, set up a brand new shop, get going again, and get pumping. So it's been like all these leaps ain't smooth. There's been enough fucking punches in the face to lay down, but as an entrepreneur, you can't. You just got to keep on rolling, man.
yeah. And that's kind of what I've been finding in my journey. So like, I don't think I may have told you a little bit, but like, so I got licensed as a real estate agent. That was my first. Well, before
Yep.
that, I got into wholesaling. That was like my first thing. And the attorney was like, "No, you can't do that in Connecticut, even though you can." Story for another day. But I was like, "All right, boom." So let me try getting my license. Got my license. Didn't sell any houses. Boom. So it's like, all right, that's another punch in the face. Then I was teaching social media
Yes.
classes. Wasn't making any money from the social media classes. I was like, let me try and start a content creation agency. Right. After my first client, I'm like, running an agency sucks. Let me not do that. Right. And it's like, man, it was like constant over, but each thing led to the next thing. And eventually it led to AI. And
Yes.
then I was able to start doing, but like, even when I started teaching AI, my first time I launched the course, surprisingly, it was actually on podcast guesting. I hopped on like about 100 podcasts between January and March of last year. I was on
Oh,
a spree. And I was like, all right, I'm gonna teach these realtors how to build their online presence using podcast guesting, because like you don't have to create the content, you don't have to edit anything. You just show up and talk about you. Like it doesn't get any easier, right? And it's just like, man, when I launched and I had 5 people buy, and the only reason any of them bought was because they knew me. Meaning, what I
yes, for
created,
sure.
what I created sucked, but like because they knew me, they're like, "It's John. I'll see what he's talking about." And so it's
Yes.
like, then I ended up going to the next thing. The next launch went pretty well. Left my job, but then this most recent launch didn't go as well as planned. And so I'm like, damn. But it's like, you know, it's a constant like, man, you just gotta kind of get back into it. And it's one of those things. It's like, for me, I think that the only wasted time is time where there was no lesson learned. And it's just like, for me, it's like it allows me to move forward and like also having faith. And for me, that's like a big thing. That's like, if I know that there's a God working in my favor that has everything, stored out for me,
Yes.
like why not move, you know, in faith? Why stay paralyzed? And so it's like, and not that I don't, I got everything figured out. And a lot of people my age think I do for whatever reason. It's just like, nah, I just go out there and I messed up a whole lot. I messed up more than most people try. And so like for you and your perspective, like what's your thoughts on like that overall?
Bro, I love everything you said. Literally, I should just turn you on the mic for these kids over here because you're pretty much their age group. But our story is so much in alignment. So this is an agency. I
Yeah.
sell leads to wholesalers. My biggest market is Connecticut, so I am deep in Connecticut right now. I got guys up there doing numbers in Connecticut. So I know that pain of agency. I know the pain of wholesalers in Connecticut. I got it. And then what you said though really screamed to resilience because I know how tough it is just to doing a couple of podcasts and still trying to keep your. You did 100. You know how many cats would have just been like 10 is exhausting, 40 is exhausting,
Yeah.
40 is unheard of, 50, 190 some days. That's what people don't understand. It's that determination that's maniacal. That 90-day sprint or however long it was, you were not
Yeah.
balanced. And there was no balance in your life, but sometimes that's how you got a springboard.
Bro, it was crazy that because I still have my podcast, right? That doesn't
Yeah, yeah,
include
there
any
you
of the
go.
episodes I'm doing, right? And then on top of that, that's when I also started teaching AI. So then I started like planning my first launch. So it's like, man, and I was doing I did a virtual summit too. It flopped. I was doing a whole lot of stuff, man.
I
I did a
understand.
virtual summit the same month I launched my first course. And so, man, it was that whole time period. There's a lot of times like that, which is hard. Like, I feel like your story kind of blurs because
Yeah.
there's just so much unbalance that all the days kind of mesh together, and like it's hard to like sometimes kind of stop and like appreciate and enjoy the journey because I mean, one, the pandemic also too played a part in that because like
Yeah.
when I was getting my real estate license, I was working 2 jobs and studying for my real estate exam. And it's like then there's also the pandemic, so it's not like everyone's hanging out anyways. It's like I literally every day felt like Monday. It was like Groundhog's Day for like 100 like 6 months straight at one point. So it's like let me ask you because I'm sure you had plenty of those periods in your life where it wasn't balanced. Like one, what do you do to keep yourself going? And like two, like what do you do to get yourself through it?
So, man, this is one of my favorite calls I've had in a long time because I see, and with love, when I say this with humility, I see myself in you.
Yeah,
And so, what I say is I personally, my caution to you would be the following: is that at
yeah,
some point your passion for growing will become an addiction, and so you'll be
hmm,
caught in a beautiful penalty box of like, hey, always moving, always moving, always moving, always moving, always moving, always moving. I came to accept that. I said, hey, listen, It's just who my personality is. What I want to be productive at all times. I have people around me that can slow me down, book a vacation, whatever. But I have no concerns, regret, because I provide an exceptional life for my kids. I bought my parents their house. I've given dude, I have a retarded crib here. I got investment properties, commercial, but I got that. And I'll never let anybody in my life tell me, hey, you need to stop or slow down this, especially if they're eating in my circle. And most people in my circle are somehow benefiting from these machines that I've created. So I would just say, hey, man, it's going to become addiction. You're probably going to have to learn to accept it. But if you can now just utilize it, just roll with it, because I don't want to be mediocre. And if being
Yeah.
mediocre means having a balanced life, and okay, well, that's cool, and I'm just going to stay in my apartment and I'm not going to do something exceptional, it ain't for me.
Yeah. No, I think I found that balance is a myth. I think it's one of the biggest myths, honestly. And I think one of the things, so I got to spend a day with Gary Keller, because they do a summit every year for
I
the
love
not for
Gary.
profit. And
Okay.
so it's like, the one of the things he was talking about that like stuck with me, and like being like 19, 20, and getting to hear someone at that success talk level, like everything they say is like foreign language to you. Like I don't
No.
remember too
Mm-hmm.
much, but like one of the things that really stuck out to me was like the whole idea of like counterbalance, and how it's like in life you're just constantly, you have to build the awareness to know when you've gone too far in one thing and steer yourself back in the other
Sure.
direction before it goes too far. And it's just like, that's kind of what I've been kind of doing, because you mentioned earlier like there is no real balance. So that's kind of what I've been doing. It's like I this is my season, and I'm gonna go hard in this. Like right now,
Yeah.
honestly, I'm still posting 3 podcast episodes a week, but in terms of like right now, my main focus like getting this AI business off the ground, because I get that up and jumping, and then that's gonna give me the money to then put more time into the podcast. And
Yeah.
it's just like for me, I know if I went all in on one or the other, I could probably grow a lot faster. But like, I don't want to let either of my babies die, type of thing. It's like I love both. One fulfills my pockets, one fulfills my purpose. But they're like two things I both genuinely enjoy doing for different reasons, of course.
Yeah, I love this conversation. I want to talk about Gary Keller. Gary Keller don't know me from nobody. One day he will. So will Jordan
Yeah,
Belfort. I met Jordan, but he doesn't know me. But in my office, all the way in the back, I got a a specialized plaque mate. It's got Gary
yeah,
Keller like laser engraved his face and his name on a glass, and then above it says he, in quotes. It says he said this one time in some conference somewhere out there, but he said, "He who controls the leads controls the
no,
industry."
someone. Mm-hmm.
Oh God! As soon as I heard that, I'm like, yes, exactly. That's why I'm gonna build this machine here, because I want to control. I want to have such a sizable impact in particularly the investor wholesaler space. And then that Gary
Yeah,
Keller quote, man, he doesn't know me, but he's inspired me so crazily.
yeah. It's so. So let me ask you, so like when you were doing all this stuff, I know you had one guy you said you worked with for like 11 years, right? If I'm not mistaken.
I
It's
work
like
for him. Yeah.
you work for him. Like how was that, like that mentor role? Because that's like something for me. I didn't ever really have a like specific like like a dedicated mentor until I got into like the business space. Before it was like taking bits and parts from all these people that I hear here and there. But like once I got that, it helped me make sense of a lot of things that I didn't understand at all. So it's like for you, like what's like your thoughts on one, finding a mentor that's even like worth the time to like look up to and follow after, and then two, like how has that impacted you in your life?
I think two mentors. So he was definitely a mentor in my life, for sure.
Yeah.
But sometimes also mentors are watching people do things that you don't want to do and repeat. My
Mm.
best mentors ever, it's that old saying, and I realized this when I was 20 to 23, like those foundational years where I got that first sales job. Everything that I built my life on happened between 20 and 24, really conceptually for my life. And it all came from that quote, is that you will be the average of your five closest friends. And then there was that
Mm.
second quote that just said, hey, you want to know where you'll be at 5 years now? It's based on the people you associate with and the books that you read. I said, oh shit. I said, like, I don't have five people that I want to be the average of. Like, I got five
Yeah.
friends. I don't want to be the average of them. I literally looked at my whole circle, and then I was like, I'm screwed. And then I was like, okay, so 5 years from now, I'm the people I associate with. Damn, I don't want to associate with any people. And then the books that I read, okay. So genuinely, from the bottom of my heart, I found mentors in books. I said, I can't get
Mm.
out of this socioeconomic situation. I ain't going to find random rich friends here in the hood of in Virginia. It's just not going to happen. but I can go and buy every book by Zig Ziglar, John Hopkins, Tony Robbins, John Maxwell, and these guys will be my best friends. And I devoured books for years because I was smart enough to know I didn't go to college because I didn't believe in what they would teach, so I better take myself to college on my own. And so that's how I solved that mentor gap. I found them in books. I didn't have YouTube University like they have nowadays, which is good, but can be a bit of a rabbit hole. But that's how you solve it, man. They exist. There's no idea new. There's nothing new under the sun, bro. Everything you want to learn is already out there. You just go find it and then you consume it and like your life depends on it because it does.
Nah, I love how you added that joke, like in a joking tone, but like it definitely does. Like everything depends on it, and I love that. There's a quote I love. I'm a butcher a little bit, but it goes something along the lines of like the man who can read but chooses not to is just as good as the illiterate man or something like that. And there's
Yes.
another one
Yeah.
that's kind of similar, just like the man who doesn't read only lives one life, but the man who reads lives many. And so it's like, for me, I get a little philosophical at times. I'd be feeling like, yeah, I'm 22 years young in terms of like Earth years, but I feel like in terms of book and content I consumed, I feel like you're able to like throw on so many more years to that number when you get all these books and people take their whole life experience and just distill it down to like the best, most practical, most actionable lessons that they learn, and you read that stuff. I feel like it definitely adds a lot of years for me. And like the one that started this whole journey for me was Rich Dad Poor Dad. It wasn't the best book I read, but it planted a seed.
Yeah.
And then from there, Think and Grow Rich was like that. Like
Yes.
really made me start thinking like, yo, like those concepts were so foreign to me. Like the subconscious mind. What are you guys, like
Mm-hmm.
what are you guys talking about? And it's like reading those. I still remember that. That was like the fourth book I read was Think and Grow Rich, and it's just like books like that. It's just like, man, I haven't been like as avid as a reader, but the books I do read, I study, which is different. So I don't really read books. I now study books that are
Yeah.
specific to like that season. So like one book I always study is like Expert Secrets by Russell Brunson.
Yep.
And that book talks about like webinars and how to sell, how to tell stories that sell. Because everyone says facts tell, stories sell, but no one teaches you how to tell a story. So like that for me
It's
was
true.
like super game changing. So like, what books for you? Like, if you had to like pick out a few, like were really like game changing for you.
It depends, like you said, on what season of your life. I'm a big person on quotes. And so one
Yeah.
of the things when I have an opportunity to mentor with somebody, my recommendation on any book is you take a book and you use a orange highlighter, not yellow. And so how I always instruct anybody who's in my circle says, hey, listen, whenever you get a brand new book, open it up on that first blank page and write exactly like a journal for that day. Hey, it's March 12th, 2024. I'm currently living in this house. My kids are here. My wife's this. Or, hey, listen, I just started this. You want to snapshot your life right then and there. Then go through the book and do everything in orange and just highlight everything that makes sense to you in orange. I really tell you to do this over, the Audible books, because what you're going to do at the end of that book is then you're going to go back and you're going to be able to reflect on those hot lines that meant something to your soul. And you got like 40 power quotes that came from this powerful book that you synthesized down. And then those quotes or any other hot quotes that you hear, dude, if you walked into my house, I live in a retarded crib. But if you walked into my bedroom and my bathroom, you would see just quotes beautifully written all throughout my house, my goals. I know what I'm saying in the morning. I'm 43 years old and I'm still grinding out in the morning with this vision of what we have, what my quarterly goals are, everything on the glass. So, whatever books it is that you read, like again, for me, John Maxwell was really powerful for me. It just depends on the season. I focused my entire first season on sales, my second season on manifestation, and now I'm on like business leadership type books.
Mm-hmm. No, I love that. Like, I think being like hyper specific as to where you are, I like the personal development space. I have like mixed feelings on. It's like that's
The
all you
which
gotta read
ones?
this book. The personal development space. It's
Mm-hmm.
like a lot of the gurus, it's like it's a bunch of like, it's like you can't learn everything. And it's like for me, it's like yeah, it's probably all good information, but like if it doesn't apply to what I currently got going on, like one of my favorite books was Launch by Jeff Walker because at the time I was gonna
I just read
launch.
that. That's mm-hmm.
Really? Because at the
Yeah.
time I was about to launch my freaking my course for the second time. After I made because the first version was like on podcast guesting. The second version is like, all right, it's called Content Creator Fast Track, how to start creating content, whatever. And I was like, all right, let me read this book and just copy this playbook. It's called launch. I'm doing a launch. It has to work. Like, why create a book on launching, call it launch for it to not to work? And so I did it, and it worked. And like,
Yep.
I think one of the things too, and like implementing it right after, I feel like is one of the things that helped me out so far because I read something and like I told you about that virtual summit that flopped. I read that in
Yep.
Expert Secrets. It was like page 8 or page 7. It's like do a virtual summit, right? And I'm like, I have a podcast. I could already reach out to guests. And then so I hosted it. As I said, it flopped, but I hosted it. I did it, and
Exactly.
like just having that action. So let me ask you, for anyone that like may be a little hesitant, how can they start building up that muscle to start taking this stuff and put it into action? Because as you know, there's a lot of people who are information overload, a lot of people who are just like info
Yes.
junkies and like consume it, consume it, consume it, and they know everything that the books say. They know all the strategy, and it's like it's not working out for them.
So the action thing, I want to answer. I wanted to give your listeners a specific title that changed my life. It was one of my later seasons. I would recommend it to you exactly like now. But it's called The
Mm-hmm.
Millionaire Course by Mark Allen, Marc Allen. It's like every male in my life at Christmas time, if they haven't, they get it that Christmas. All the men in my life, I send them a book at Christmas. This is like the
Yeah.
book number one. Um, so that's to the side. In regards to like how to move from concept to action, it's that saying. What is it? Something like you're gonna have to deal with the of discipline or the pain of discipline or the pain of regret. And
Mm-hmm.
so it's like, yo, listen, I don't want to know it all. I just want to execute on what it is, and I want to get out of the. So I don't know. Maybe it's part of I'm so well oiled as a machine now after doing this for so long that I couldn't even fathom hearing something hot and not trying it. I believe in split testing everything.
Yeah.
Everything. 80% of my success is a split test. We have a constant, introduce a variable. Let's see how it goes. Like, all right, so I can do podcasts. Now let me do this now, the new concept or whatever it may be. So I don't know, man. I think it's just a mindset, which is the weak people in every generation. All you got to do is just be a little bit stronger than them and you just survive. So, how many people out there will consume content and never act? Consume and never act. Consume and never act. All you got to do to be successful is act, baby. Simple.
No, 100%. Are you familiar? I'm pretty sure you are. Are you familiar with Jim Rohn?
Of course. Of
Yeah, so
course, bro.
Yeah, I love Jim Rohn. That's one of the guys I used to listen to. I need to listen to a lot more of his stuff, but when I was like earlier in the earlier season that I was in, I used to listen to him a lot. And one of the things he said is like, I guess someone asked him, and I used to see the clips because he's passed away for anyone that's listening, and I used to see the clips of him, and he was like, you know, only 10% of people in the audience will ever take action on anything that he says. He said, and it's like, damn. Like, and he was like a certified goat in his industry, like, and only 10% of people are taking action. It's like a lot of people, like, success literally can be broken down to like just a battle of attrition. Like
Yep.
in a lot of cases, I feel like you don't have to be good, which kind of I don't say like don't be good, but like if you just last, you,
That's
you're almost bound to succeed, almost like.
Bro, I've never heard it put like that ever. Like success is just a battle of attrition, but that's exactly what it is. It's just like I'm going to stick. If Will Smith's got a quote, he says, he's going to be on that. He also says his quote is "Don't talk about my woman." But anyways, but it's on being on the treadmill. He says, "Hey, listen, if I'm on a treadmill and we're running, I will die or you will quit." And it's that type of mindset. It's like, I'm on this. I am going to be on here forever. I am more dedicated to you. I'm in the game because you don't have to be this. I've for sure learned you don't have to be the smartest. You don't have to be the prettiest. You don't have to be the richest. You just got to be the person who's going to out hustle the other people around you. And the bar is low. Every single friend, particularly in all generations, don't get me wrong, but I would love to be an entrepreneur in your guys' generation, starting out hustling, because I know how many people are truly addicted to bad habits, whether it's vaping's crazy or they're on their phone, but they're not monetizing that action on their phone. There's a lot of people that are just lost youth out there right now. You just dominate, crush those kids.
Yeah, man, it sucks that there's so much truth behind it because like I feel the same way. Like you literally like at this day and age, like the stuff that most people my generation are complaining about that they actually don't really understand. It's like if you just get after it, like you're literally gonna be ahead of most people in this generation. But like one thing I want to ask you though, I heard this from Alex Hormozy not too long ago, but he's like, it's naive to think that you can get into business and just start having like create. He didn't say it exactly like that, but like pretty much naive to get into business and think you're gonna like be a massive success because it doesn't put respect on the game of entrepreneurship and business. And so it's like for someone, as I said, who's kind of been at this game for a lot longer than me and most of the people listening, like what can you say about like putting respect on the game and like paying your dues?
Listen, Hormozy's the GOAT. And I know this was a sub quote, but only thing I would say is I think it's okay to think you're going to come into it and be wildly successful. And you should, damn it. And you should
Yeah.
also not be a moron and then not have like planned out and thought out and brought your skills out. So I think going into it to be successful is the exact right attitude. But like you said, you're gonna get your teeth kicked in, bro. Like I can't. I mean, I got so many teeth kicked in, and it still happens all the time. It'll just be like a crazy month, or this guy quits, or this competitor does this. It's like it never goes away. But what's so crazy is after all the bad things happen, your resistance to fear of anything is like zero. Like I don't give a shit. There's nothing somebody could do to, even if they said, "Hey, the office, it's all shut down." No problem. Let's roll, baby. What are we gonna do next? Like there's just your resistance and your capacity to handle bad things. Like you said, it's just a springboard. And the reason why women used to hate it, particularly when I was younger and dating, is what you said earlier. It's like they'd be like, "Oh, you screwed up." Well, okay, but even if you leave, it's a lesson learned, so it evens it up for me. So it's like I've never been mad at a failure or something breaking or going wrong because I knew that that was an opportunity to learn something for the next thing to be better. So that's it.
Yeah, no, 100%. I agree with that so much, man. And I love that you're a quotes guy because, like, I'm also a quotes guy. And it's just like another good one I heard recently is one cannot wish for both strong character in an easy life because the price of one is the other. And
Ooh.
it's like, let me get your thoughts on that one.
Yeah, dude, it reminds me exactly of that quote that's out there before Joe Rogan, but I heard Joe Rogan said you'd rather be a samurai in a garden than a gardener in a battle or something like that.
Yeah, you'd rather
And
be
and it's
a warrior in a
how to,
garden or a gardener at war.
yeah, yeah. And so it's like, man, it's so true. It's like I'm well aware, dude, I'm so comfortable and I think that I feel so blessed that I didn't come from money or anything. Um, because I'm so well aware that like anything could happen and we scrap our way back up. Like it's okay, life goes on. I'm still me. I got it. So yeah, man, I think it is about that resilience and that dedication and that desire to be better. And there's a lot of fakery out there. I also feel I have a thing against vanity metrics. And I think that
Hmm.
the younger generation has an issue with vanity metrics, vanity lifestyle. And what really it means is that it's so easy to buy the bullshit. And so many people are like posing, they get one on one jet or they go to a fake jet or they Photoshop. And it's like everybody's caught up in vanity metrics of stuff that's not real, bro. It's tough.
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned that. I literally watching there's a business I think out in LA that they rented out a studio and built it out to mimic to replicate like the inside of a private jet and rent it
Right.
out and like people book it for shoots all the time and they're doing they're doing numbers like and it's insane for me like and one of the things I talk about so like, I feel like I'm glad like one of the people I learned like I started listening like learning from is Russell Brunson because like Russell Brunson loves direct response marketing and like a lot of the direct response marketers are like way older than my time like so it's like I got this like older view in marketing and then, but I'm applying it into like this day and age of the influencer. And like I think there's two different paths when it comes to creating content. It's like there's the path of the influencer, and you can make good money doing both, right? Like there's influencers, like one of the guys I follow, his name is Kai Sanat. Man's making 80,000 a
Mm-hmm.
month, like, and that's just off of just Twitch subscribers,
Yeah, yeah,
like
yeah.
nuts. Then you add brand deal. He recently signed with Nike. Like you're not even an athlete. He got a Nike
Yeah,
sponsorship.
yeah, yeah.
Like what, bro? Like so it's like great money. But then there's also like the path of influence of the business owner, which is more centered around conversions. You know, appointment sets, leads gain, and stuff like that. and it's like knowing like which path you're trying to go on. I think I agree with you 100% on like my generation is so caught up on that vanity metric, and it's like they let that, even if whether they're in business or not, like they let the vanity like almost like pretty much it gets to their head. A lot of them, it
So
gets
for
to
the
their
real
head.
estate people that are listening, I service some of the biggest wholesalers in the nation. I mean, like big dogs, big dogs. And what's crazy is probably 40% of my client base doesn't even have IG. And so that was a real kind of beautiful reassurance of that thought process, which is the big boys who are doing millions a month. They ain't on here flossing and fronting and stunting. They just out there
Yeah,
providing for their team, buying yachts, spending time with their family. They don't want anybody in their business. So behind also the vanities, the guy that writes the check to Kai Sinat, that's who I want to learn from too. Somebody's paying him. Who's that guy? The guy that's
yeah,
running the transactions at the bank, who's running all the funds for the international wire. I want to know that guy too. So behind it all, there is still that. There's always levels to it, obviously. So yeah, I love getting to meet the people who kind of keep their lips sealed a little bit about what they're doing too, especially in
yeah.
today's day and age.
100%. Those are the type of things, yo. I went into this one like money mastermind event, and he was talking about like how the wealthy move money, and like one of the big things I learned is like how most the consumers open up like brokerage accounts for investing, and it's usually through some type of broker, right? Fidelity, M1 Finance, Schwab, right? The real people who own money, they open like self-directed accounts, and like they have like
Mm-hmm.
what's called like a custodian, and so like they're moving their own money, and it's just like, man, so like they don't have like Fidelity account, like no, they don't have your typical Roth IRA and put like there's one guy that they were saying like, was it Mitt Romney? I think he would like Mitt Romney was one of them that they mentioned, but there's this other guy. He went from like zero to like a couple $1 billion in his Roth in a few years, and I was just like, yo, like those are people you don't know. They don't got a following.
Yep.
Like you like you can only know by being in the game, but you can only get into the game if you're in the game. So if you're not in the game, then it's like you're never in the game, bro. It's just like those like, man, that's been interesting to me too a lot. And like another thing that's been on my mind too is like, why do a lot of like DIY entrepreneurs and like business owners, people like who immigrated here, like started a business like off a hustle, like they work so hard to get their first clients and keep on getting clients, and then like other people like they get multi seven, eight, nine figures in funding, in the conception stage, long before they any have any like any revenue, and like why are there these different worlds? And it's like, man, there's so much out there that I'm still curious on and looking to learn
Yeah.
more from. But it's like I
I,
know there's a way that the ballers like move their money that isn't how most people move their money, and I'm trying to figure out where they play at so I can go play in that space.
yeah, I would say to that, there's a big. I'm a big my personal beliefs. The process is
Yeah.
stronger than the product. And that's the
Hmm.
same thing that you were talking about the older OGs. It's like, yo, I'm learning these older concepts and I'm applying to this new thing because the process is stronger
Hmm.
than whatever channel it is that we're communicating this skill set through. Because all it is various channels. And so I'm very cognizant of is I have zero loyalty to real estate. It's just the
Hmm.
mousetrap that I got right now. I literally, you tell me after this, you hang up, be like, dude, I'm going to talk to you about something. I know this guy, and he's in Amsterdam, and he's got this thing, and I'm like, okay, and the numbers are this, okay, and it's not hurting anybody, it's helping people, and I cut this light switch off tomorrow and be like, new campaign, boys. But it's that mindset because I'm not married to anything other than the best mousetrap that I can apply these principles and processes that I've learned to produce the most amount of good to the world and also greatness to my bank account. And that's it.
Yeah, no, I love that you mentioned that. I feel the same way. Like everything that I did was just to help me get to the next thing, whatever that is. It's like, for example, like in real estate, one of the things I learned was circle prospecting. You got a listing, you door knock all the neighbors, tell everyone that you
Yep.
have a open house coming, right? And so I didn't have any listings, I didn't sell any houses, but the realtors in the office I knew, so I was circle prospect for their around their listings, right? And then like when I got into like now teaching, well now it's like, well, you connect with one person, and then they introduce you to your audience. Well, now their audience becomes your audience because now you were endorsed, and it's just
Yes,
like
sir.
circle prospect. And so it's like similar to what you were saying, taking those processes that worked in one place and figuring out, having the creativity to figure out how to apply it to the next thing. And so like I'm curious. So ideally, like where is it? Like, where are you taking this? Like, where is the overall vision? Because I said you're doing numbers, you got this big thing, but like your vision still, as I said, 20 years later, is still growing more and more, and like so, like I don't know, like where do you see the vision overall going?
Yeah, I'm a big person on quality, 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 quality. So, like what I built here is a machine completely focused on quality. I want to be the Rolls Royce of the real estate lead gen agency. I want to produce highly qualified, highly motivated leads. I don't want to send you a bunch. I just want to send you a bunch that close. And so, like, I'm really keen on right now fulfilling my original task, which was to disrupt the real estate space, to kill the concept of these BS cheap VAs in the Philippines or Egypt who just kind of fill up your system with junk. And so for this real estate product here, I'm on that pathway. Our market dominance is a reflection of how little still people know about us. I've never spent a single penny in advertising. Not a single dollar has ever been spent on advertising. Everything that we've done growth wise is word of mouth from an affiliate who's doing well, who shares their story, et cetera, et cetera. So the vision is to complete our mission, which is to dominate and raise what this industry considers a lead. Because when I got into it, I was like, oh, you guys are calling a lead? Oh, I call that just raw data. Like, that sucks. Oh, what you guys call an opportunity? Oh, that's what I call a lead. So let's just change the game there, and I'm going to monetize that journey. And then above and beyond that, my main mission is 200 and some kids behind me, or roughly 200 kids, who buy their first car because of me. They buy their first motos, they get their home, whatever it may be. So, like, I'm making an impact down here. That's my personal way to ensure that, like, the butterfly effect is real. And then in the industry, to just raise the bar of what mediocrity exists in the real estate space.
Yeah, and I got one more quick question. There was a
Uh
couple of times throughout this podcast where you guys are all clapping, and
huh.
like
Uh huh.
the law of proximity, right? You being around that energy helps elevate everyone. Like I still remember like football, like whenever it's time to max, right? You put the weight on the bar and like you have the whole football team around you and everyone's like,
Yeah.
yeah. And you put you throw the weight up and it's like, oh, then your boy hits something and it's like, all right, add 5 more pounds, right? That boy not
Yes.
and then I guess it's like for anyone that's like hasn't ever been in an environment like that, like can you just like break down really quickly like what that environment does for somebody?
It does a lot, and I'm appreciative that you recognize it. Being on the phones for anybody who's ever cold called, it ain't easy. And so my concept is if I had to cold call into the United States and I could do it from Jeff Bezos's yacht or Google's office, I would have a much better experience. So I'm just trying to give these kids here behind me the most badass working environment possible. You should hear the DJ over there playing. We got arcades. We got one foosball table, two ping pong tables, bean bags everywhere. Like, I've created an environment where steel sharpens steel. So, like, yo, we don't allow no ducks in here, only eagles. But when you do good, when everybody's clapping, it means that somebody just sent a lead where somebody wanted under 70% ARV, which is like a fire lead in our space for the investor
Mm.
side. And what it does, it just helps keep you motivated. I want these guys to be inspired and fired up and excited about the work environment. I want this to be the coolest place that you could possibly spend 8 hours a day with your brothers and sisters in war, but in a badass work environment. So it just keeps you going, keeps you pumped up, keeps you moving, keeps you ready to take another no. Because I got to go through 149 no's to get to one yes.
100%, man. Scott, man, I had a great time chatting with you, man. For
Thank you, brother.
anyone that wants to know, like, where can we connect with you? Where can we find you at? Or if you have anyone listening from, South America right now or Colombia, like, and wants to, go check you out, where can we find you at, man? How can we keep up with what you got going on?
Yeah, and I appreciate the opportunity. I just want people to find some inspiration in the journey. Anybody can always feel free to reach out to me, ping me with whatever questions. My company IG is at Lamassu, LAMASSU leads. So at Lamassu leads, it's really the best place to see what we're doing. It's where we're showing all the behind the scenes content here in this office. I do a lot of sales train, sales train, sales train. My core gift, if you will, is sales culture and sales training. And so that's really what I talk a lot about, how to execute in the REI space. And then the same sales concepts are anywhere, everywhere, whether it's online, whether it's with writing copy, the art of communication, the power of persuasion. are tactics and tools that you can use for the rest of your life to make your life better and the people around your life better. So if you want to learn more, at Lamasu Leads, and then you can follow our journey there.
Amazing. Now it's time for our famous five. Same five questions we have every single guest. We'll start off with number one, man. What is the most impactful lesson you've learned in life?
My my daughter, who's 7 now, when she was 2, she was diagnosed with cancer, unfortunately. They found a tumor the size of an American football in her. And I went through that every night, laying in the hospital with her. Everything that you would expect when you have a 2-year-old kid, first child with chemotherapy and cancer. By the way, she's doing amazing now. Amazing. But that kick in the face, to be able to get through that, like the biggest lesson I learned is I was glad to be able to be the man that I was destined. I felt like my whole life up until that point was destined for that one moment. But like, dude, I can accomplish. Dude, there's nothing. You can't. Nobody else hurt me worse than that. Nobody else hurt me. I'm ready for anything. Whatever the world throws at me doesn't matter. Nothing will be worse than that.
Amazing, man. That's like that story of triumph, overcoming, right?
Yep.
Second question. What is the most admirable trait a person can have?
It's definitely honesty, integrity. Because without that, I don't care how good of a worker you are. I don't know how slick of a talker you are. I don't care about anything else. I can take a good person and turn them into a great anything, but I can't take a good, let's just say, salesperson and turn them into a great human.
100%. If not, you mentioned a book earlier, so you could also just use the same answer. But question number three just so happens to be, if you could change someone's life, but you only had one book to recommend, which book would it be?
It would really depend on the situation that they're in. I think from a business book, that's it. I think from a you're lost type book, obviously I'm going to say the Bible only because that's the source code of everything else. And it's like I said earlier, it's that's everything is flowed through those words down. And so part of my morning routine as well, because I've already read it multiple times, I have my highlights. And now at this season of my life is every morning I go to one of my highlights and I like meditate on it. I think on it for 3 to 5 minutes. I reread the whole page sometimes. This morning I reread the whole page because there were 2 highlights on that one. So I would definitely say, like if somebody was down on their luck, I would give it to them and I would walk them through it a little bit.
No, amazing choice. Amazing choice. What is the legacy that you're working on leaving behind?
Teaching people to believe in themselves, man. Like that's the main things. Like I've impacted a lot of lives. I'm not done impacting a lot of lives, but it started with me. Like I had to believe that I was worthy of it. I had to believe in myself first. And it's crazy if you just believe in yourself, what it can do for others around you. Just like every other entrepreneur, influencer, good mom. A good mom says she believes that she's a damn good mom. A good husband and believes he's a damn good husband. But believing in yourself, right? Not letting the negativity of life kind of wear you down. Because there's a lot of people out there, society itself, surprisingly, doesn't actually want you to believe in yourself. They want you to believe that you're dependent on others. They want you to believe that you need somebody else. No, believe in yourself first, because it's like that. I was taught a long time, probably closer into my 20s, that like consider life to be like a movie screen, except like you control the script. And it's like, oh yeah, I do control the script. Like no one else really cares about me but myself. So believing in yourself, and then you can change everything around you.
Yeah. And then to finish off, man, for anyone that wants to embark on their walk to wealth today, what is the first step you recommend they take?
It's going to sound weird, but it's the gospel. I mean, it's the gospel. I think that you need to write out your goals. As soon as you write out your goals, like that's cool. Then I need you to pivot them into I am goals. So if it's like, hey, I want to make $1,000,000, I am currently a million. Just write out your 10 goals. Change the first half to you don't want, you don't have, you don't want, you don't have. It's you am. So I am, and put those bad boys all over your mirror, all over your everywhere where you can see yourself in your house, and really start to get in the habit of seeing these things and understanding these things. And also to watch your friends when they come over. Watch a girl when she comes over to your house and she says in there, it says, I am a millionaire. I am currently driving the car of my dreams. I am this, I am this. And she laughs, get rid of that. If people ain't in it, if they ain't got it, if they can't see it in you, screw them, because you see it in you. So literally it's a high level thing. Whatever your goals or visions are, Don't just say I need or I want. Say I am. There's a whole lessons behind that, and then put it in your house, and don't be afraid to put it on display, because if it's in front of your eyes, you'll see it. If you see it, you'll believe it, and then you have that opportunity to have that mental mindset to achieve it.
100%, Scott, man. Again, I'm so glad we were able to connect and like have this conversation, man. Looking forward to staying in touch, continuing to collab, man. And thanks again for hopping on.
Dude, I appreciate it. Thank you for the invite, man. God bless.